Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for joining Axia Public Relations Discovering Strategic PR Insights webinar. I look forward to going over everything with you today. My name is Katie Boyles, and I'm a PR strategist at Axia Public Relations. I'm also joined by my colleague, Hannah. She's here taking your questions in the chat box, and she'll help you if you're having any trouble connecting.
Hello, happy to be here.
Great. So first, let's start off with what is public relations? It is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. And today, during the Discovering Strategic PR Insights webinar, you'll learn three things: a proven process for finding the strategic insights. We'll go over best practices for research and evaluation, and we'll show you how it can be a springboard to find an overall campaign theme to help reach your company goals. Strategic insights help solve business issues and identify communication opportunities. Today, we'll be using credit union as the company example. And here's a quick describer straight from the Director of Marketing from our company credit union. They look to increase positive perception of their company. And they say, we know approximately 30% of all people won't even consider a credit union when it comes to making a banking relationship decision, either due to lack of understanding of how a credit union differs from a bank, or a perceived level of sophistication, whether it's through products, digital or online capabilities, or other complex banking needs. And members are not sure what it means to join. So they've tried a variety of marketing awareness and acquisition campaigns, and yet we struggle to break through the consideration set with at least half of what would be considered affluent consumers to make a switch. So we'll refer back to credit union as the company as we go through strategic insights today. The first step when you go to begin strategic insights, you'll want to consider the business issues. Customer acquisition, upselling and cross-selling, traffic, new products, competition, market share, awareness, and revenue are very common business issues that we see with our clients. So what business issues are you facing in your company today? Go ahead and put them in the chat box, and I'm sure we can all relate to these common business issues at your company. For credit union, their business issues were the consideration and lack of education. They needed to increase awareness and the perception of credit unions versus banks. Also, customer acquisition was an issue for them. They need more affluent customers, and they'd like to upsell and cross-sell their services. And market share and competition. Big banks versus credit unions was definitely a business issue for credit union. So the high-level view of the strategic insights process includes three segments. We'll look at brand insights, consumer insights, and competition insights. Once we understand each of those, we can merge together to see our overall final insight, which will help be the springboard to your marketing campaign. In each step, brand, competition, and consumer, we'll need to collect data, we'll need to interpret the data, and we'll need to evaluate the data and provide the insight to help our marketing needs. So those steps are very interesting terms. So a very simple way to understand collecting, interpreting, and evaluating is looking at trees. So when you collect data, you can see this is a tree. When you interpret the data around the tree in relation to other trees, you can see this is a large tree, it's a big tree. And then to evaluate the data and provide insight, comparing it to everything, putting emotion to it, and understand your own thought process, you can say it's a beautiful tree according to the data. The first step in strategic insights is brand insights. You'll want to understand, what is your brand? How is it viewed? How is it positioned? And how is it marketed? The first step, as we just discussed, collecting the data around the brand. This is where research comes in. What you'll want to look for is the perception relative to the competition, the brand's tone, its positioning, how it's marketed, its mission, its vision, and values, to understand what is the brand. There's many places you can look. You can look at the brand's advertising, their website, any annual reports or analysis reports, investor relations, company research that they've put out, industry news sites and publications, and industry and financial analysis. Industry associations are a great place to look for data. Hoover's, the company's news releases, Ad Age, and Adweek can all help provide that data you'll need to collect around the brand in order to understand the brand insights. The second step for brand insights is to interpret the data. So here we've listed out the 3 steps, and this is the example of credit union. For collect and describing, where we can understand, it's a tree. We really just want the raw data. We see 56% were not sure about membership. There was a lack of clarity around who could be a member. Also, from a primary research study the credit union put out, they ranked 4th behind Bank of America, US Bank, and Commerce Bank in total combined unaided awareness. And they had a marketing campaign called We Are KC, but it was with stock images, and we found that on their website. So once we collected that data, we can interpret it and look at it in relation to other data. Their marketing is product focused, not membership focused. There was no personal touch with stock photography, and it wasn't educating the interested parties. They were marketing more like a bank by leading with products over a personal touch. So we can understand after we interpret that data, now let's evaluate it and provide our own emotional statement and insight to this brand. And we see the brand is not connecting with its audiences. That completed our brand insights. Now we'll move to consumer insights, which will help merge to our final insight. And we'll go through the same 3 steps. First, we'll need to understand, looking at consumer insights overall, what do consumers think about the brand? How do consumers feel about the brand? And what is the consumer's need with the brand? So collecting the data around consumers, this is where we're just collecting from third parties and primary research. We're going to want to look for consumers' habits and practices, the usage, their attitudes and emotions around the brand, their segmentation, and how it fits with their lifestyle. We really want to understand how consumers and this brand tie together. So where to look? You can look at company research if they have their own primary research they've already put out. You can look at secondary research online, such as associations and trade groups, government reports, industry and financial analysis. You can even do in-person observations where you ask consumers in stores, what is it that you like about this brand and what do you prefer? Pew Research Center is a great third-party resource. A quick Google search and reviews about what consumers are saying about this brand. Even Simmons, MRI, and Mintel. So now we've collected that data, we can put it into our table and move to the second step of interpreting it. So we found for credit union, affluent customers between 25 and 54 with $100,000 plus in their geographical area of Kansas City, that was their defined target audience. We can also see how people choose a bank, and we understand 24% look to a friend or family recommendation when choosing who to bank with. Some other top deciding factors are fees, convenient locations, their overall value for their money, and if digital banking tools are an option. Then we can move to interpreting the data we've collected. We see consumers are skeptical about choosing a credit union over a bank. It's also a hassle for consumers to have to change banks. And we can evaluate and provide insight to this consumer data. Consumers are skeptical about switching. That finishes consumer insights. Now we'll move to the third segment, competition insights, which will merge to our overall final strategic insight. When looking at competition insights, we'll want to understand who are the competitors? What do they sell? How are they positioned? And what benefits do they leverage over your brand? So we'll collect all the data we can about competition insights that's relevant to our business issue. What you want to look for is targets and positioning. What are the go-to market tactics? What benefits and qualities and features and pricing does the competition offer over you? How are their sales and market share trends? What about profitability and ownership and partners? And to find these things, you'll want to look at year-to-year comparisons, different reports, their advertising online and in print, research, industry news sites and blogs, a Google search on the competition can provide great research. Public library databases are a free resource to use. Consumer reviews can provide great data into the competition's brand. And you can even perform your own primary research where you go to the store and talk to people who are selling and buying their product. Ask the salesperson, what are you seeing with the competition, and what leverages their brand over this brand? Once we collect that data, we'll put it into our table, and here's our credit union example. First, we'll want to collect and describe the data. Here we see banks are their primary competitor. Other credit unions are not competition due to the community charter area. And the credit union has a 17% of the market share in their geographical area. Half as many households are the leader. The Bank of America is the leader in their local market. And one positive the credit union did have great technology reviews, so their digital capabilities are up to standard against their competition. Then we can interpret the data that we collected. The credit union has fewer locations, especially when compared on a map. The locations are less convenient, and they're not on the main highways. Highly affluent neighborhoods are missing locations for the credit union, which is the audience they were targeting. And their technology is standard or better based on the online reviews from consumers. Now we can evaluate the data that we collected and interpreted, and we can see that the competition, the bank competitors, are large brands and impersonal, especially compared to credit union, the brand we're considering today. That wraps up the third segment of after we look at brand, consumer, and competition. And that's where we come to where we merge those three insights. And we need to provide that final insight. This needs to be a statement that paints a very clear picture of the opportunity. It provides a judgment, and it's also written with emotion. So you make this statement heavy in creating some kind of emotion in the reader so we can see where that opportunity is and what needs to happen. And we can merge it all into our strategic insights table where we've collected the data. And this was a very shortened version of strategic insights. When you collect data and interpret and evaluate it, this table gets very long, and depending on how much data you need for each segment, and how it merges to the final insight, which is the overall strategic insight. So we've got credit unions' strategic insights here. The brand is not connecting with its audience. The consumers are skeptical about switching from banks to credit unions, and the competition set is big and impersonal. So we can see the overall final insight from merging these three segments. Credit union is your trusted partner for a bright financial future that paints a clear opportunity to the space they need to be and provides emotion-based interpretation of the data. The overall analysis for credit union, the big bank competition approaches consumers impersonally. Consumers are skeptical about choosing a credit union over a bank. Credit union needs to reach out to its audiences through personal connections in the local community to build trust and create new member opportunities. Their marketing needs to be personal, trusted, and connected to Kansas City. And we've got our three segments of insights here for competition, consumer, and brand, and then the overall strategic insight. That provides a springboard to our overall campaign theme. We understand where the opportunity and what the needs are for the consumers, what the competition leverages, and what the brand needs to improve. So we can see an overall campaign theme coming from the strategic insight. You can come up with some marketing themes and ideas, perhaps showing images of real Kansas City people and help telling their financial stories and journeys. Explain the membership benefits of joining a credit union and really help educate those interested customers. Share positive emotional member experiences, and then the landscape of big banks credit union really needs to make the personal connections with the Kansas City community to build trust and create those new member opportunities. So we can see some overall themes here, perhaps community, trusted, local, member benefits, Kansas City, and personal relationships are really going to be what hits home for Credit Union, the brand we were considering today during Strategic Insights. So that wraps up the overall Strategic Insights process. Axia Public Relations offers many services in earned, shared, social, and web. And we have an event coming up in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a strategic planning session. It's October 16th, and it will be a hands-on learning collaborative workshop where we'll put together a 2020 strategic communication plan with you and other colleagues. They'll have SMART objectives, and it'll help understand how to measure outputs, outtakes, outcomes, and impacts for your company. Okay, Hannah, do we have any questions to address?
Yes, so first I just want to shout out to a couple of people in the audience. When you mentioned any business issues, we had answers like awareness as well as growing leads and sales among qualified prospects.
Yes.
I hope that our Strategic Insights process kind of touched on a way to shed light on those. And then, yeah, we did have a couple of questions. The first one is from Shannon. She asked, how long does the strategic process take to do?
Great question, Shannon. So the Strategic Insights process is definitely a team and collaborative activity. Each person has their own interpretations and evaluations of the data, so it's great to work together. It's a process where research you can go on for hours and hours. So you really want to focus your efforts on brand, consumer, and competition, and understand what business issue you're trying to solve to help focus your efforts. But overall, 2 to 8 hours is a good Strategic Insights process, and you would revisit it, each day to come back and understand the data. And it's a team effort. So, great question, Shanna. Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, Paul asked, can you share the Strategic Insights table? And I can actually feel that one. So we will be publishing the webinar recording on our website, axiapr.com this week. And you'll be able to find that table on slide 26.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today for our Discovering Strategic PR Insights webinar. I hope you have a great day.
Bye. Thanks, guys.